All right, party people, let's get the recording started here, and we will jump right in to the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, so we're back with another very spicy edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Listen, it has been quite humorous, the back and forth that former Speaker Tim Jim Jones and I have had on X, back and forth with his postings and misleading people. And he gets a little spicy, and he likes to, and now he says, I just want to argue about everything, but I'm just arguing his points, and he doesn't like it when you do that and call him out on his BS. So it's been an interesting week so far. And we kind of, I don't know, Brandon, we've been kind of going back and forth here since last week with him. And he is just like hell-bent on getting you guys out there that might listen to his show to drink the Kool-Aid and just vote for Amendment 4 and Amendment 5. And I ask that any information that we put forth, you will take into consideration before making your vote. Brandon, any opening statements that you'd like to make before we jump into all this?
Yes, one for sure, and an error by omission. So I've been on this show preaching that Amendment 5, like part of the reason it's bad. It's bad for a lot of reasons, but I've been saying that part of the reason it's bad is because it starts with like the rich and works its way down from the top tax rate, and that is what it says in the bill. But I was ignorant in the top tax rate earning starts at like $9,000 or $10,000 in Missouri, and so it's not fair to say that even if you start at the top tax rate when you're eliminating taxes, that it starts with the rich. There is something to be said about people paying income tax and it shifting to the sales tax, and that shifting the burden from higher income earners to more middle class. But to say that it starts with the rich people first is a little bit disingenuous. And so I wanted to make that correction.
Yeah, that's fair. And in all fairness, also, it's still unconstitutional because not everybody gets the break at the same time, which is not, equal treatment under the law. So even though that top paying threshold of taxable income is set rather low, I'm going to stick to my guns on the constitutional part of this. Now, some people might say, well, you just don't want to admit you're wrong. I don't think we're wrong on Amendment 5. I'll speak for myself. I'll speak for Brandon. I still don't think we're wrong about how bad Amendment 5 is. It's just that, it's that the top income bracket is $9,900 and some odd dollars. Tom says, why must people believe they have to castrate themselves to curry favor with the General Assembly? Your guess is as good as mine, Tom. I wish I could figure that out. I wish I knew why people had to get on social media. Nick Schroer had some stuff out today too. And he stole Tom's word, trans conservative. He stole his word when he put it in that post about, well, I don't, these trans conservatives, they're just Democrats. They're no on this amendment, no on this, no on eliminating income tax, and no on Second Amendment and stuff like, dude, no one's talking about that stuff right now. We're talking about the shady ways you guys are trying to do things, right? Trying to accomplish these things and acting exactly like the left would do when you call them out on stuff and they immediately resort to name calling. It might be different. Instead of, you might be far right, or you might be a fascist or a MAGA, something like that. They're just playing the same exact game that the left is right now. So again, there's another reason I can't support this. If the only thing you have is name calling, and you try to equivocate someone who doesn't agree with you to the other side of the political aisle, I'm sorry, that's not good enough reason for me to like jump on the bandwagon for this stuff and support you wholeheartedly without, basically taking my brain and setting it in a box and just stopping thinking altogether. That's dumb. And so I'm like, fine, you guys can call me any name in the book. I don't have a problem with that. I've been called everything but a white man throughout my whole life by people who don't like me sometimes. Your little calling me a leftist is not going to hurt my feelings. I don't have any feelings for you to hurt anymore. I'm 53 years old. I'm kind of over that stuff. Brandon, anything you want to add to that before we kind of go on a little bit?
Well, we had somebody on one of our shorts left us a very lengthy comment about our opinion on Amendment 4. And they were basically just attacking a straw man because they were like, you want all these progressive leftist things because this is the way that the left uses their agenda to push things through. And we're like, that's not our opinion. Is not that that IP doesn't need reformed. It's that the initiative petition process and the legislature should have the same requirements for amending the Constitution. If you're going to raise both of them, where they both need all federal congressional district approval, then we need to have that also when the legislature wants to amend the Constitution. It's that we don't think that the government should have more power than the people. It's not that we're all big majority democracy lovers on this show. And that's even in the group text with me, you, and Tom. I was like, well, clearly that guy has never watched our show because we don't make that argument that it needs to be easy to amend the Constitution. We're just saying that the legislature and the people need to be on the same playing field if we're going to make it harder. And it's just so stupid how they're like, well, it has to go through committee. There's extra steps. And it's just that doesn't mean anything. The IP process is incredibly difficult. They make it incredibly difficult with the number of signatures you need to gather and the amount of time. It's not like either process is, you could argue, more or less difficult. It's just that one curries favor from the lobbyists in the political system, and the other one does it through the people.
Yeah, if you really want a good critique of Amendment 4, look for Rob Carter's interview with Ron Calzone. Ron Calzone articulates it so well on the hit. I mean, that guy's been working at the state legislature for 30 years, championing bills, defeating bad legislation, trying to get IP reform done. Had a pretty good one. They decided they wanted to lay that one over and let the session end before they, and then it just dies there on the floor in the Senate. So I am going to read you this, a lot of this comment that was made, left on our YouTube short. And the reason I want you to hear this is because this sounds like a typical I should say a stereotypical dyed-in-the-wool red Republican, using every talking point that the other Republicans put out there. And it's not a well-thought-out argument. It's just these claims. So he says, let's be very clear here. Despite all the liberals complaining and moaning about majority rule, the initiative petition process is minority rule. Don't believe me? What statewide race has a Democrat in Missouri won since Jay Nixon was governor? The IP process allows liberal special interests to hijack the Constitution to become a legislative document to completely run an end around of the legislature and the duly elected members of the Missouri General Assembly. I asked those same people one question. If the IP process is so perfect and doesn't require reform, why is it that virtually every proposed constitutional amendment, whether it be citizen-led or via legislative action, end up in the courtroom and usually end up with a Missouri court redrafting the ballot summary? Why are the same people who claim that Amendment 3 was totally above board suddenly complaining because the exact same tactics they employed 2 years ago have been employed against them? Why do the people who claim to care about majority rule deathly afraid of a revote? I will tell you, the process works for them, and it works for them, they are for it. When the same process is used against them, suddenly it's unfair and misleading. The reality is it's always unfair and it's always misleading. They're mad because they know this is their only recourse to ram progressive policies and legislation down our throats. The same people claiming it's unfair that Amendment 3 ballot language didn't disclose that the amendment would repeal and replace the 2024 amendment had no issues that their amendment language didn't disclose its effects, like repealing parental consent laws, repeal ultrasound requirements, waiting periods, and basic safety standards. The Missouri Supreme Court said they didn't have to. Yet suddenly in 2026, it must be disclosed that the new amendment repeals the prior amendment and must be written in terms that overtly favor Planned Parenthood and the American Communist Liberal Union. The system is and has always been broken. One side just chooses to pretend this isn't true because it has historically favored him or favored them. Now, there is so much there to break down, and I'm not going to break it all down. But this same person who is really mad that we're not behind Amendment 4. Are you not angry at the lobbyists who have helped the Republicans keep a majority in Missouri for years and years and years and years? And I have some screenshots of some out-of-state businesses donating to a PAC, donating to Republican senators or reps. Does that not bother you? Because that's out-of-state money. I thought we were all against out-of-state interest coming into Missouri and affecting legislation. I thought we were against that, but it's there. We have screenshots. I have screenshots that I'll show you this evening. So if we're going to sit here and play this game of splitting hairs, and again, the thing he's complaining about, well, they're all for it when it's for them. When it's against them, they get butthurt. I say the same for you, sir. I'd say the same for you. The Republican Party in Missouri is deeply, deeply addicted to lobbyists and PAC money. That's the way they keep the majority. They are not going to suddenly gain a spine for the most part and vote constitutionally. Why? Because they'll lose all those campaign donations, and they may not get to serve until they term out. This is just a ridiculous one. But you hear all the Republican talking points in here. And as Tom alluded to in the very, very first comment in the live stream, why must people believe they have to castrate themselves to curry favor with the General Assembly? This guy, Mr. Show Me State Hog, which is a really weird name, but I've seen weirder, he feels he must castrate himself to curry favor with Republicans. And if you feel that you must do that, it is time to go out and get yourself an electroshock therapy appointment and get yourself back on track. Brandon, your response.
So again, our our argument is that it needs to be the same threshold for Congress and for the people on initiative petitions or on constitutional amendments. And it's stupid for him to say that initiative petition is minority rule when it's literally a majority vote. Like that is like, when's the last time a Democrats won, but these progressive ideas keep winning? That's because marijuana is more popular than the Democrat Party. Like, I hate to say it, but abortion is more popular than the Democrat Party. Donald Trump in 2024 won re-election by a solid majority in Missouri, like, or one not re-election, but one, I guess re-election, however you want to word it. But he won the state of Missouri in November 2024, and abortion passed in Missouri in 2024. Like, you can say that it's minority rule, but that just literally doesn't make sense. And then also he's talking about how whether or not you have a constitutional amendment coming through the House and Senate or coming through initiative petition, that they both end up in the courts and need rewording for ballot language on their ballot summaries. And okay, then that just proves our point that we need the same standard for both the legislature and for the people. If they both have the same problem of bad language ending up in courts, then it doesn't seem like making it harder for one and the same process for the other. Like, it doesn't seem like it's going against anything we've ever argued on this show. Again, like I said, he's coming after a straw man. And definitely to your point and Tom's point, it's like, I understand why the propagandists would push the propaganda, but I am still shocked by the number of people who just eat it up and regurgitate it back out as if they are the ones benefiting from it, not just them ones running cover for the people who benefit from it.
Yeah, it is quite the interesting mental gymnastics these people do, again, to seemingly keep the favor of their favorite political leaders. If I use that term very loosely, their favorite tyrants, they will do just about anything to suck up to these people, and I don't understand it. All right, so I keep talking about clean Missouri, and this was passed in 2018. Let me share my screen here real quick if I can find the correct window. Looks like I have it here. And I've got it highlighted here. So it says basically this set contributions, it set a limit. And at this time in 2018, it was $2,500 to elect an individual to the office of state senator, and to elect an individual to the office of state representative, $2,000. So just starting there, and now it also said that contribution limits set forth herein shall be adjusted on the first day of January in each even number year hereafter by multiplying the base year amount by the cumulative consumer price index and rounded to the nearest dollar for all years after 2018. So I guess if the CPI goes up, you can donate more. Okay, there's that. Let me stop sharing that screen there. Let me find the right screenshot. I found one. Now, mind you, folks, I was just going through the MEC. All right, let me get those back. I was just going through the MEC and just randomly looking at things. So, so there's a committee, Missourians for Ethical and Transparent Government, right? Let me share this window with you. And then we just have one person by the name of Lisa Thomas, self-employed psychiatrist, $60,000, just kablango. One person, $60,000 to a PAC. Now, I'm probably going to screw this all up. Oh, here we go. Lisa Thomas is an American politician and psychiatrist who served as a member of the Missouri House of Representatives from 2021 to 2025. Elected in November 2020 from District 124. She assumed office January 6, 2021. After redistricting in 2022, she was reelected from District 123. She was defeated in the primary on August 6th of 2024. So that's one person donating $60,000 to a PAC. So these people aren't, again, they're not donating to individuals. They're donating to the PACs, and then that money filters out. Let me see. I had something else though. Now I might have screwed this up because I didn't do a good enough job. But let me pull this. I did screw something up. I'm not gonna show that anymore because I grabbed the wrong screenshot because I did a terrible job at doing screenshots. But you can see that I'm going to show you this anyway. Here's for Jake Vogel. He's running for Senate, I believe. Yes, state Senate. And in opposition of him, there's been $32,505 just in opposition of Jake Vogel. So just kind of giving you a heads up on the money. Here's something else. Okay. So they talk about, they limit individual donations to a politician at $2,500 in the Senate, $2,000 in the House. I also found these others, and this one really, really threw me for a loop. Where are they all at? Okay, that was just some of them. So part of Clean Missouri says that you cannot donate money to an individual through somebody else's name or another business name. So it's supposed to be, you can't give somebody else money and then donate to the same candidate. It has to come from that individual. That's part of the language in Clean Missouri. Now, here's something funny. So this is all this money is going to a PAC. Let me pull this screen up for you real quick. Now, if you look on the screen here, let me expand this all the way so you can see it a little better. And I'll, oh, well, that's not what I wanted to do. I was hoping to make that bigger. So you will see donations, and I believe this is to Curtis Trent. I cut that out like an idiot. Okay. So Ben Christian, Herzog Energy President, $2,400. Jeff Davison, Herzog Contracting, $2,400. Craig Ebersold, Herzog Contracting Senior VP Pursuits and Development, $2,400. Brad Lager, Herzog Contracting Chairman and CEO, $2,400. Then there's VP of Major Infrastructure. Then there's Herzog Transit Services, Senior VP Brett George, $2,400. So what is this exactly stopping, basically? And then you go over here, more Herzog Contracting, George Williams, no relation to me, by the way. Thank you very much. Bruce Redden, and then we have Larry Snyder from Snyder Construction, another Herzog Contracting. So yeah, this is, oh yeah, here we go. This guy's out of Full Shear, Texas. So anyway, I just wanted to show you those things because they make it sound like we're going to stop all these bad rich people from donating to politicians. So instead, all this money gets siphoned into a PAC, and I could have swore I had a screenshot of the 417 PAC. Let me go back to my drive space here because, yeah, I'm pretty sure I had that screenshot.
I am now curious to know if Herzog Contracting has been receiving some state money. I know that's unrelated to the point that we're kind of making here, but like now I'm kind of curious as to, I mean, that's a lot. They put in like, there was one more at the bottom of that last page that was from somebody else in Herzog Contracting, and they put in like $20,000.
Okay, so we're talking about outside money, right? So let me pull this up for you. Found this while I was perusing the MEC website, which Catherine Dreyer and I are going to have to get on the phone again, and she's going to have to really teach me how to peruse the MEC site. It is a little confusing for a geriatric idiot like me. Let me pull this web page up here. I'll expand it out. So we don't want, this is from the 417 PAC. Look at this. J&J Ventures Gaming LLC, $50,000. Then you've got the Soybean Association. You've got Ameren Electric Co-ops. I believe here's AVS Companies LLC, Elk Grove Village, Illinois. Why are they donating to the 417 PAC? Why would they do that? I think there was one more in here. Oh yeah, Cheyenne International LLC, Grover, North Carolina. That's money coming to a PAC from outside the state. So just some examples there. But here's how much this, I don't remember when this, okay, so this was reported July 9th of this year because they have to report, they have to file a report at the MEC every quarter each year. And you'll notice they have $500,000 in this PAC, $586,322.27. So that's one PAC in Missouri, one of them. So all this scare about we got to keep the dark money out of Missouri, out of state interest out of Missouri. There you go, folks. Look at these PACs. See where they're getting done. And then that PAC money filters through to the candidates. And of course, there's probably some interest there, like you need to vote this way or that way or this way on these issues when you're, and down there on the House or the Senate floor. We sure like if you'd vote this way. There it is. So to me, the out of state money thing, I don't want to hear. You go to the MEC, you see that should get tossed out the window. I shouldn't even we shouldn't even have to show this stuff on the show to know that everything they're saying is a flat out lie. But there's the proof right there. Out of state money flowing to a Missouri PAC that is throwing money at Missouri candidates. So do with that information what you will. But hey, that's just a one thing I found on the MEC. My eyes were about ready to cross to the point where I was permanently cross-eyed trying to go through the MEC. It is not, it sounds like I'm being a little facetious, but it is not for the faint. That website will confuse the dog snot out of you if you don't know what you're doing. It is a confusing site. Brandon, what say you, man?
Well, a couple things. Yeah, it definitely seems like all Clean Missouri did was clean up it just funneled all the money to the PACs, which PACs can spend money however they want. Like there's not supposed to be like real coordination between like candidates and PACs, and there's rules. If you want to be technical about it, there's rules in place against it. But we all know that they're not really following that rule. And so, yeah, I mean, like you said, this big out of state money. Like sure, to an individual campaign, there's limitations to contributions. But as you just showed, there's people dropping $60,000, $50,000 into a single PAC. That's not limiting anybody's. All of that money is going to be spent on campaigns and on special interest like projects like Amendment 4 and Amendment 5. And so, yeah, they haven't done anything to clean up Missouri politics money wise that way. All they did was funnel the money to the PACs. And I'm not even here to say that I think that should be illegal. Like it's wrong and it's blatant corruption. Don't get me wrong. It's clearly like, okay, we're a corporation. We're going to donate and spend money for you to get elected. And you're going to turn around and give our company contracts or make it harder for our competition in some way or another. And it's up to the people to see that information and go, no, I refuse to be a part of that. I refuse to vote for anyone a part of that. If out of state money really like sets you off, then you should see that MEC data and go, I will never vote for someone who's taken in that kind of money, because there's no way they're not voting. They're voting with their conscience when they're willing to take in and have somebody else expend that kind of money on a campaign. It's up to the people right now to see that kind of information and wake up. Like the politicians tried to sell you, we've cleaned up politics in Missouri. You can only donate $2,400 per person to a candidate. But then even you showed on that one form, it's like, okay, but like if I donated and then my fiance donated and then my cousin donated, like that, it just creates more loopholes. It didn't actually fix anything.
Yeah, as to Tom's point, Clean Missouri is a classic example of how the people used the Constitution to neuter themselves. They limited themselves to campaign contributions and opened the PACs to roll in the funds. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And people like Tim Jones and Heather Overstreet and some of these other influencer types, I think Tom nailed that in the head. She's just a Missouri state influencer. All they're doing is trying to get you to neuter themselves. And like I said, Tim Jones and I have had a lot of back and forth on X, and he just he thinks that he's a conservative champion, and he's doing things that Republicans back. And it's like, which Republicans though? The Republican establishment or people that vote Republican? Like, it seems like, because he gets kind of ratioed on X sometimes too, if he lets you comment on certain posts, because you can comment on certain ones, you can't comment on others. That's another back and forth we had. I'm done talking to the dude because I have more luck standing up from or spinning around in my chair and facing the wall behind me and just talking to the wall. I'd have much better luck, and I'd have a much more uh, uh, intellectual and intelligent conversation with the wall than talking to Tim Jones, who, by the way, I have it on. I have a good source that this person, when it came to school choice, they were against it. Tim Jones made up some crap, posted it on social media about this person. This person like messaged him, was like, "Hey, dude, what's going on here? Like, I've helped you out before." They met and had coffee, and then Tim Jones admitted, "Yeah, I made that stuff up about you, but school choice, blah 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 blah." They have a recording of that conversation. So that's the type of person Tim Jones is. Whatever his Republican buddies want, that's what he's going to do, and he will apparently make things up about you to further that agenda. So do with this information what you will, but he is, in my eyes, he is not to be trusted. And I got a message from a friend this morning, said, I think the new motto for a lot of people that should be, anything that Tim Jones is for, we should be against. And I think that's pretty sound reasoning. What do you got to say about that, Brandon?
Well, just to really highlight the perfect example of kind of what we're talking about here. So there was talks about the budget being $54 billion. And then the budget they approved ended up being $50 billion. And they tried to pat themselves on the back with like, we cut the budget by $4 billion. Look at us go. And we on this show have had a hard time finding where they actually cut $4 billion versus chose not to spend it, which is not the same thing. Like if you've got a budget from one year to the next year and it grew or stayed about the same, you didn't make any cuts. You just chose not to spend more, which is not cutting anything that you'd previously spent money on. So even that in its first bit is disingenuous. Then when John's like, where are you getting this? Like I asked him, was like, where are you getting this $4 billion cut from? Because he's like, we would love to cut the income tax. We just don't want to raise other taxes to do it. We'd rather cut spending. And so he posts two different articles. One of them was from Missouri Net, and it had an approximation, not even the budget that had been approved yet, just an approximation of what the budget was. And it said it was roughly $52 billion. See, it says roughly $52 billion.
Proposal,
right, which ended up being less than $52 billion. It ended up being somewhere between 50.4 and $51 billion. Then he posts another article talking about how the budget is this coming year is going to be $48 billion, which if you just took it, what if you just read the title of what he's posting, you're like, oh, well, I guess they did cut, $4 billion. Wow. Tim Jones is right. But then you click on that second article and it says lawmakers passed a $48.7 billion operating budget. And then it also, 2 lines later, these budget bills also add an additional $2 billion for construction projects. So when you add that, that's $50.7 billion. So you've got a $51 billion budget, then to a $50.7 billion budget. At best, you've cut $100 or $200 million off of a $50 billion budget that's going to be $1 billion over, according to what office is that in Missouri that said that? The auditor? No.
I don't know who,
but they're projecting a $1 billion shortfall in Missouri.
State treasurer, yeah.
The state treasurer is saying that we're going to have $1 billion shortfall next year. So you bragging that you cut $200 million, saying you cut $4 billion. Like that's just the kind of like skewing of the facts that you would expect from the left. Because like when we started this show, I came on and was like, hey, I made a mistake. I was misrepresenting what this really did. And I'd like everyone to have the full story on Amendment 5. But these guys are adamant. They on purpose will look for any little thing that kind of makes their argument look like they're right, like on the surface. And it just takes literally 30 seconds of digging to find out that they're lying. Like they're what they said may have had some factual basis to it, but they're skewing the purpose to give a misrepresentation of what it is, and that is lying.
Yeah, and to be quite honest about it too, when you go and look up on the Missouri Office of Administration, it'll show you the budget. It'll show you like the prior fiscal year, and then it'll say request, and then it'll say the governor's request. And there are a lot of figures where the governor requests higher numbers. Parson did it, Kehoe does it. So tell me, oh conservative champions, how Governor Kehoe is cutting spending. Every time I looked at these budgets, the last 2 to 3 fiscal year budgets, the governor's suggestions were always higher. Now, that might be part of like a bargaining thing where you go up higher and then you end at a number you want. Let's just put that into play. Maybe that's what it is. But you're out here saying that you cut $4 billion from the budget. And so I asked him, was that $4 billion that you wanted to spend and just couldn't? And he got very angry with me. And he just said, I wanted to argue about everything. And then he asked me, what color was the sky in my world? And I was like, well, I don't know, dude, but I don't know what color you see, but I'd say everything to Tim Jones is green. It's about money. He's the head of the Missouri Freedom Caucus with members like Nick Schroer with a constitutional voting record of less than 20%. And that's the type of people he wants to parade out in front of you as some conservative champions that are fighting for limited government and smaller spending and less taxation. And there's no less taxation. There's no real change in spending. And they're shifting the taxes from one avenue to another. How? That's I don't know. I don't think you should come around in my yard and try to spike the football with those types of facts. Again, to Brandon's point, when I pulled that article up, because he just posted like the link in his post on Twitter, I clicked on it. I literally scrolled like a half a scroll and saw $50.7 billion. And there's an article from 2026, June 30th. The governor Mike Kehoe vetoed nearly $53 million from Missouri's $50.7 billion state budget Tuesday. But his larger move was to freeze $441 million in spending. So tell me, did they just add some numbers and instead of 441 million, they accidentally added some zeros in that they thought it was 4.4 billion? Did they make a typographical error? Did they put the decimal point in the wrong place? How do you get 4 billion out of 441 million? Jim Jones, Kool-Aid Slinger, and Nick Schroer and Heather Overstreet and the rest of these people that want to just get out there and peddle this nonsense. If they can, okay, hold on. Here we go. The spending plan was already 3.7 billion less than Kehoe requested in January, including a reduction of 374 million in general revenue outlays, but state revenues haven't kept pace with projections, falling further than expected as the effects of the tax on capital gains, profits on the sale of assets, ballooned tax refunds by 141 million, in addition to a $162 million reduction overall in income tax receipts. Kehoe's vetoes targeted 27 earmarked projects added by lawmakers, but he did not stop there. He also cut $7.5 million lawmakers wanted to transfer from money set aside for Interstate 44 and $3 million from payments to local assessors, saying it was unfair that extra money would result in higher payments for assessments in some counties and in others. So notable cuts restricting $3.5 million to finance a 21-unit apartment building for lower-income families in Springfield, vetoing $2 million to purchase flood-prone land in Jefferson County for use as a local park, restricting $104 million for renovation projects at the Missouri Capitol building. He did allow $15 million to be spent on a parking garage for a new conference center under construction in Jeff City, and $21 million to move a road at the state fairgrounds in Sedalia. But there is no $4 billion. It's just the fact that they were coming in under revenue and they couldn't get that $4 billion extra that they wanted. So the Missouri Freedom Caucus weren't the champions of cutting spending. Wow. Anyway, go ahead, Brandon. I'm just going on too long here.
The Republicans have held the majority and the governorship since 2016. Well, that's when they won the election. So since 2017 is when Greitens took office. Almost 10 years now. And another thing that he said in one of his posts was that the Freedom Caucus is not only cutting spending, we're adding meaningful waste, fraud, and abuse deterrence, including Medicaid. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me the Republicans have had the majority in Missouri for almost a decade, and we're just now putting in protections against waste, fraud, and abuse? Like, this is the first we're hearing of this? Because as far as I can remember, unless you know of something I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head any major like Medicare, Medicaid, or like daycare center fraud being uncovered in Missouri. And I'm not saying that none of that's happening, but I'm saying, are you telling me we're just now coming in with the mechanism to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse a decade into complete Republican control of all three branches of the Missouri state government? Like, that is a derelict of duty if I've ever heard one. That you've been spending, especially because in that time, those budgets have increased by almost double. Like, our state budget was $27 billion, now it's $50 billion. Where do you think we're spending all that money? Medicaid, Medicare, like all those programs, the federal money coming in is being spent there. And so you're telling me we're just now deciding we're going to start looking into waste, fraud, and abuse? You're telling me we went through COVID where people were blatantly abusing the system to collect checks they weren't supposed to get, and we're just now? Come on, man. That's what you're... Oh, man. That fires me up a little bit, because it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, sure, the layman might not be sitting around thinking, I wonder if Medicare and Medicaid's being taken advantage of. But when you're a legislature who signs the check on that every year, you're not thinking, hey, I wonder if any of this money's being wasted. Like, it took you a decade to go, and not only a decade, it took a decade and an independent journalist traveling the country exposing this fraud for you to go, you know what, there is waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah, we're going to look into it. Like, that's nuts.
So here's a post that the Missouri Freedom Caucus had up. Now, mind you, Jim Jones heads that up, right? So they posted this May 7th. 4.1 historic budget cuts, 4.1 billion less than last year's operating budget. Also, dedicated fraud, waste, and abuse tools and staff focusing on government fraud, including Medicaid. Just a start to limiting government and returning money to the people of this great state. Then there's not a lot of people that respond to this, but someone says, where and how? Why are you ignoring these questions? Methinks you may be fibbing that you actually cut 4.1 billion. The next comment is, if you genuinely cut 4.1 billion, you could have the income tax, so half it, and do away with your sham tax bill. Can you provide documentation? What I printed out, FY 2027 House bill totals as of May 5th, 2026, does not show this. Am I missing something or reading wrong? Here's an idea. Keep cutting until you cut enough that the state income tax revenue isn't needed, then end the state income tax. So that post didn't go as planned, and I'm glad they got the few ratios there. But yeah, this is sometimes I laugh and sometimes I'm boiling with anger. Like when he comes at me the way he does, dude, I'm not gonna lie. Part of me is like, because it's like we talk about it all the time and we do it. Pay closer attention to what has already been done. And the Missouri Freedom Caucus is just getting started. Okay. And then he says, you have to argue about everything, don't you? So tell me, what color is this guy in your world? And then he puts these up. FY 2025 to 2026, $52+ billion. He is just misleading. Now, I reposted this was Nick Schroer's thing. The anarchist trans Republicans. I'm sorry. What's wrong with an anarchist, by the way? I don't.
Anarchy.
Who are no on school choice, no on tax cuts, no on protecting our Constitution from woke out-of-state billionaires, no to shrinking government, no to protecting our Second Amendment, no to protecting the unborn and born babies, no to regulatory reform, are simply following the guidance of their leader, Barack Hussein Obama. I am so sorry that I am following Barack Hussein Obama. I had no idea that I was doing that, folks. I thought I was doing it because I don't trust the government. But unbeknownst to me, apparently, Brandon, you and I both love Barack Obama. And I don't know how else. I don't know what else to add to that. Should I?
What I love is how the comment section for Tim Jones was not full of a bunch of left-wingers. Like, they like to complain that, like, the Democrats are like, it's not that a bunch of left-wingers went in there and they're like, you're going to cut all of our favorite programs, are you? No, everyone in the chat was like, if you're cutting spending, then cut taxes. Like, that's what they all, that was the consensus, was like, you're full of it. Where did you actually cut this spending? Because if so, you can cut some income tax with that, can't you? Like, that was awesome. That was hot. I'm glad I saw that, because it goes against their entire narrative. They're like, all of these Democrats are against this. It's like, no, dude, we're reading the comment section on your posts, and it's a bunch of conservatives who are against what you're standing for right now. So get out of here with this. Everyone who's against me is a Democrat. No, it's a bunch of people who want to cut more government than you do.
Yeah. And so, and it is one thing I did have to post, and it did spring to mind yesterday, that there are too many Republicans and mainly establishments, but there's some people that are drinking the red Kool-Aid because they proclaim the Constitution is too big. So then they proclaim, let's add more amendments and make the Constitution that's too big. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? The Constitution's too big. We got to do something. Oh, I know. Let's add some stuff to the Constitution. What? I just feel like I'm watching the world's worst tennis match. I'm just watching this volley back and forth, trying to figure out what planet they're living on, dude. I don't know what to do.
And they're still preaching this as a tax cut. Like, you want to talk about the most disingenuous, like, that's my word of the day. Screw it. The most disingenuous way of wording what you're trying to do with this tax, with Amendment 5, is calling it a tax cut. Like, what are you against lowering taxes? Like, you're increasing spending, like 50.4 billion to 50.8 billion, or even, let's say you're cutting, let's be super generous here, and let's say you're cutting $200 million. You still can't cut out $15 billion in revenue. Like, you plan on making that up some other way. And any other way you plan on making that up is called taxes. So stop calling it a tax cut. Unless you have a major, and I mean major spending cut, then you can't call this a tax cut. That is lying to the people. And so they're using the Democrat tactics. Again, they find one piece of information that barely helps their side, and they'll stretch that way beyond the truth.
Yeah. So, he replied at one point, I enjoy what I do, which includes helping the supermajority of sitting Missouri Republicans who created, debated, and passed Amendments 3, 4, and 5 get these extremely important, historic, and absolutely conservative initiatives across the line. So, a conservative champion I am indeed. Definitely according to all the conservative legislators who passed these much needed matters and the Republican voters who haven't continued to support them. I haven't responded to this yet, but I need to because I want to see his response when he said that the Republicans created, debated, and passed. Here's an interesting thing that I learned from Ron Calzone when he was on Rob Carter's show the other day. When Amendment 4 went to the Senate, it did not get debated on. It got PQ'd right back over to the House. No debating on the language at all. It hit the Senate, PQ'd it, shot it right back over to the House for them to pass it. So there wasn't a debate on 4. There might have been in the House side. It got left out on the Senate side. So someone's little buddies on the Senate PQ'd it and shot it right back across to the House for that they could pass it and then get it on the ballot. So yeah, that's not a conservative champion to me because, again, if this is such a great idea, let it get in both chambers. Let's talk about it. And with Amendment 5, sure, Amendment 5 got debated and passed. Amendment 5 started out one way in the House, went to the Senate, and according to Bryant Wolfen, they mangled it, sent it back to the House because I believe they moved the Hancock thing from 3 years to 5 years in the Senate, sent it back to the House, and the House passed it. So you just created a longer timeline to suspend part of the Constitution, not a conservative champion thing to do. So his whole pedigree that he's trying to tout here is quite unimpressive, to say the least. Now, that's coming from a guy who's pretty damn stupid, but not quite stupid enough to fall for this BS that they parade out in front of us in their little dog and pony shows while they pound on their chest and also about break their necks trying to pat themselves on the back. And it's just unimpressive. It's unintelligent, unenlightened, unimpressive nonsense. Pure Republican propaganda using the tools that the left does. That it's like a George Bush thing. You're either with us or against us, right? When he's talking about the war on terrorism. That's what these people are doing. You're either with us or against us. No, I'm against people lying to other people and misleading them and not cutting spending and shifting the tax from one area to other areas and not making any meaningful cuts. Because, again, as you can see from the articles, the numbers look virtually the same. So this is one of the worst shell games ever because they keep shifting stuff around, but they don't notice there's a hole in every coconut shell. And even though they're moving it around, you're like, dude, the ball's right there. And they're like, not anymore. It's not. Ugh. And you're like, dude, I still see the ball underneath the coconut shell. Like, that one's got a hole in it too. And they're like, you're not seeing what only a Democrat would see that ball in the coconut shell. Are you a Democrat, sir? Like, no, I'm just a normal person. Well, if you were a Republican, you wouldn't see the ball under the shell. And you're like, okay, all right, buddy, easy. But yeah, it has
Democrats, Democrats breathe air and drink water. What are you, a Democrat over there breathing air, drinking water? Socialists and communists breathe air. John, what are you over there breathing air like a gosh darn socialist?
There I go, breathe, taking a dude. It would be cool to get a petition going around and then send it to Tim Jones and demanding that he walk outside and apologize to all the trees for all the oxygen he's been wasting lately, just to see how he would react. You could get like 500 people to sign it and just send it to him. They're like, we ask that Tim Jones go outside and apologize to the trees for wasting all this perfectly good oxygen on the BS that he's trying to push on us. And just, of course, he would never mention it. He would never speak anything of that because that would make him look bad in the eyes of his establishment buddies. But I digress there. But yeah, folks, I just wanted to put that out there. Again, I'm sitting here. I don't want to tell you how to vote, but I do want you to be aware We want you to be aware of all the nonsense, of all the just absolute uh muddying of the waters, like, and you cannot let yourselves be swayed by name calling because you don't think you fit into a particular political box. If that's what you're worried about, man, you really gotta take a step back and start looking around the way these people are acting. Because you can take what they're saying and you can go look at someone from a Democrat party and the things they say, even though the wording's not, they use different language and they're talking about different things, their actions are identical. So you got to pull away from these people. These people are leading us into the abyss. And they seem to be happily doing it too, which is extra scary to me. And you know, the Jeffco Patriots are hell bent on convincing you all that if you don't like AI data centers, that's all China's fault. You're being misled by China. That's China. It's just like the 2024 elections. And now the China boogeyman has come back around. You guys have to be on board with data centers. Come on. Data centers are good. All of them are good. So anyway.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but China stole the 2020 election from Donald
Oh,
Trump.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched any of that, Jim. I actually didn't watch very much of it. I caught some highlights. I wasted my time a while back when Trump gave this update. This was a few months ago on the Iran war. And I made a point to watch it live on TV. And it was the most ridiculous, talking out of both sides of his mouth. And here's the annoying part. They're trying to say that because they had voter data that China was hacking these elections. But I, as a candidate, can go and pay $25 to all of the counties that I'm running in and get everyone's voter data. It's how candidates send out mailers. They find the registered voters in their districts and they send out mailers based on that data. I hate to tell you, to everyone listening, your voter data is pretty public information. And so China didn't necessarily have to break into a backside mainframe and do all this stuff. I am sick of everybody's they stole that election. No, that one was stolen from Stacey Abrams. That one was stolen from Hillary Clinton. And this one was stolen from Trump. And this one's oh man, I'm not saying we don't need to investigate all of it or whatever, but boy, it's tiring. It's tiring listening to just both sides talk all that trash and then have nothing to back it up. And for Trump to be I'm going to go on TV primetime, major announcement, and I'm going to say absolutely nothing. Oh man. Sometimes when Trump's going to give a speech about something stupid, even if I know I'm going to hate every word of it, part of me is okay, let's watch how dumb this is going to be, but not anymore. It's that flame is gone.
Well, and that's why I've made comments too. I've joined in on somebody else's stream last night and told him, I was this thing with China in Missouri. I was you got people running around more scared of China. And they're more scared of China over what their own government's doing to them. Just with the surveillance state alone. China's not doing that. That is our government. And a lot of establishment Republicans are behind it 120%. More data centers. Don't talk smack about flock cameras. Don't talk smack about this. We have to make data centers look good. We have to make dude, I'm telling you, China is not going to invade this country. They know that once they cross the mountains, there's rednecks with guns everywhere. And it's a losing battle. They can't get enough troops over here to defeat us on land. They might take over in New York and LA because those people are are you guys here to sell us rice and stuff? And they're like, see. And you're oh, cool. Hey, why would a Chinese person say see? Don't know why he said that. Anyway, disregard that. Just wanted to throw that in there. They're Chinese people speak Spanish. But anyway, it's why are we? But again, since 2024, the gubernatorial candidates were talking about China this, China that. At the federal level, it was all about China. And it's Are you paying attention to your own government? Good Lord, these people are hell-bent on controlling and looking in on every aspect of your life. Is the Chinese government making rules that if you get over $600, that they see it, that they flag it, and they can, like, if you're doing your tax, like, hey, you didn't declare this $600 deposit hit because maybe you got a side hustle. China's not doing that. Is China, and I'm going to pull this article up, is China selling cameras to be put on school buses to monitor traffic and turn them into license plate readers? Is China doing that, or are our local cities and states doing this? So you tell me, who am I supposed to be more afraid of, China or these group of a-holes that are wanting to put surveillance cameras on everything imaginable? In fact, I know I sent Brandon, I'm not going to pull the article up, but I did send you an article. Let me see where it is. I'll just like the headline of it. Come on, pull up the page. Oh, Texas State Police purchase of 4 brand new Chevy Tahoes. $4.5 million price tag. Made by Israeli surveillance company Cognite. The tech simulates a mobile phone tower, which forces nearby phones to connect to it. That enables cops to keep tabs on any phones in the vicinity. So you have that $4.5 million for 4 of these bad boys for Texas State Police. Things like that. I'm supposed to be afraid of China when that's going on in America. I don't know. I feel this is just a little strange.
No, your enemies are in Jeff City and Washington, D.C. They are not overseas anywhere. That's crazy. I remember reading that now, but that's insane. 4.5 million for a cop car, and then also just to start tracking everyone's cell data without a warrant, like
Yeah.
that's craziness.
So let me read
Yeah.
this article here. This was published June 28th. This is on the Drive. This is from the drive.com. It says your kid's school bus is about to become a roaming surveillance vehicle. A company that sells cameras to catch drivers illegally passing stop school buses wants to turn them into license plate readers. This is from Stephen Edelstein. So it says just last week we published a story about how companies that maintain automatic license plate readers and profit from selling the data they collect are also looking to track electronic signatures from connected devices and even your car's infotainment hardware with a new product straightforwardly named Signal Trace, and they're not stopping there. 404 Media published a report on Tuesday detailing plans to equip schoolhouses with automatic license plate readers and turn the data over to law enforcement. The report is based on leaked documents from Bus Patrol, a company that specializes in stop-arm cameras that capture images of drivers illegally passing school buses. The company claims to have over 40,000 of these cameras deployed across 24 states, and at least 30 states permit them. They use AI software to automatically review images and submit them to law enforcement. As noted by Reason, stop-arm cameras have been criticized for not delivering promised safety benefits, but they've nonetheless generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue for the companies that deploy them. And according to the report, Bus Patrol now wants to turn those cameras into license plate readers instead of activating when a specific law is allegedly being violated. They'll now reportedly be live at all times, capturing data of any vehicle within sight of a school bus that can then be sold to the law enforcement agencies Bus Patrol already counts as customers. Civil rights advocates are already concerned that the current unregulated use of automatic license plate readers amounts to unconstitutional mass surveillance by the government, and the potential for abuse is already being demonstrated. The same week, 404 Media published additional reporting detailing police officers using the wildly popular camera system Flock to stalk people. Taking humans might not help. Speaking to 404 Media about the Bus Patrol plan, Jay Stanley, a senior policy analyst for the ACLU, said that there's a real risk that AI will be used to create a hellscape of over enforcement. According to the report, the leaked documents suggest that Bus Patrol is aware of the negative use of the ALPRs and expects pushback. But an anonymous source with knowledge of the matter told 404 Media that a new investor is pushing the company to find alternative revenue streams and that the company is already conducting tests with one school bus with plans to deploy 100 license plate reading cameras on school buses by the end of next month. If Bus Patrol goes ahead with this plan, these cameras would join an already dense surveillance net that can track people's movements by reading license plates or the signals from electronic devices. The companies selling these cameras have built a business around selling data to law enforcement who can then use it despite the fact that it was obtained without a warrant. Because as security expert Matt Hurwitz explained on the Drivecast, the laws are way behind this tech. So listen, folks, we get on here a lot and talk about government, the different arms of government. You want another reason why you ought to homeschool your kids? If you have less buses on the road, you'll have less of these freaking cameras everywhere. And so they're selling data to an arm of the government by using transportation vehicles designed to take your kids to another arm of the government, which is public schools. So, a lot of people talk about how bad education is, how bad the Department of Education is, the lowly state of public education in this country. And you know what we'll do? Instead of making sure that they get the right education, as you're transporting your children to these grand institutions of education, your kids are riding on a surveillance system to be transported to a school where they can be taught a bunch of nonsense. It just gives me all the warm and fuzzies in the world. I don't know how you feel about it, Brandon.
Well, don't hang me on the cross for this one, but I actually in O'Fallon where I live, the buses drive on a lot of 4-lane roads, and then they do stop on the 4-lane road on like the right-hand lane, so that arm swings out and the kids are getting off and they're crossing the intersection or whatever, and you'll see cars blow past that stop sign, and like it is a dangerous thing that happens. And it's hard to say that like you want a police officer following the bus around all the time. And so like I understand the need for a camera on that bus arm, not one that tracks everyone's license plate reader on the time, but maybe one. So like I have an Xbox, and if I'm playing a game and something awesome happens, I can press 2 buttons and it records and saves the last 30 seconds and deletes all my data. I can't go back and re-record a game that I played 2 days ago, but it stores my data for like 5 minutes. And if I don't click save on that particular moment, then it goes away. And that's how it should be for these bus cameras. Let's say the arm opens up, somebody drives past it, the bus driver should hit the button and it can save 30 seconds of data. What it doesn't need to be doing is catching everyone's license plate all around it, collecting that data, and then sending it and storing it to the police. That's ridiculous. And Tom comments put in the comments, Lowe's have installed flock cameras at their entrances. Now, I think that a private business should be able to install whatever security system they want, especially when the laws in a lot of cities favor the criminals. Like I remember the criminals used to walk into Bass Pro Shop with totes, put as much stuff in the totes as they can and walk out. Because if an employee tries to stop that person, there's like a legal ramifications for vigilantes trying to stop crime on their own. And so I think flock's a terrible way to go about it. I think like there are probably just as good, if not better, private security systems that can help you stop fraud and send police to your location without having to be in the same network as the ones that are like sending all of this data and collecting it for the government. I think that's a bad move by Lowe's. But I'm not opposed to private companies having whatever software they want on their business, because then it's up to me. If I don't like the fact that Lowe's uses Flock, I can go to Home Depot. I can go to not Trader Joe's, the Harbor Freight. I can go to there's like
Yeah,
different you can go to local
Menards.
hardware stores. Yeah, you have choice in that. But what you don't have is a choice of driving on a public road by a bus and having it track your license plate and sending that data to the government. And so, like, yeah, I'm not saying that there's never a use for a camera in a public setting, but I think that like it's just crazy how they're admitting in the article. They're like, we have an investor who wants to make more money, and one way he wants to do that is to gather more data and sell all that data. Like, that's great. That admission is nuts. Or unless maybe it wasn't an admission, it was like a leak of some kind, but that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and again, I can understand, like, to your point, they have a camera. If somebody, you got kids walking across the street to get on the bus and cars are blowing past them, and you can catch that, collect that data, and then boom, done. I'm for it. If that thing's on all the time, collecting data of every car around it, nope. But that's the slippery slope we have, right? You get something, you're like, that kind of makes sense to have that, right? And then suddenly some other group of jackasses goes, you could just be a surveillance transportation device for us all the time. And they're like, and who knows? Maybe the school's going to get money for this. Maybe they might be like, we'll give you. You never know, dude. You never know what's because I mean, if I'm an educator, if I'm a superintendent of a school district, and somebody's like, hey, you got these buses and it's got this camera on it. It'd be really cool if you just allow us to leave it on all the time. And if a superintendent, first thing should be like, why would we do that? And I'm like, well, because there's criminals about. You're like, yeah, there's always been criminals about. Like, you could be a real hero. Your kid's school bus could be a life-saving tool because criminals. And you're just like, because criminals? They're like, yeah, because evil and stuff. But the way the education system is in this country, superintendents and people and the school boards and stuff would be like, yeah, let's be heroes. Put them on there, slap them on there, boys. I mean, some of these, some of these people clearly don't have your children's best interests at heart. They're worried about collecting enough revenue to keep the school afloat and getting more school bonds passed. So yeah, this will probably fly right under the radar, and they won't even think twice about it in some of these areas, especially the more metropolitan areas. But yeah, I agree with you, Brandon. I have no problem with that camera being on that stop arm if it was only being used to catch people who were blowing past that stop sign, almost hitting a kid, and they could capture that footage, that 30 seconds of footage, and then, that person gets a ticket or whatever. Cool. Once that thing is on all the time, that's out of bounds now.
So what I'm hearing is that if you oppose license plate readers on school buses, then you hate the kids.
Yes, that's
Is that
what
what
I
we're
mean.
trying to say? Is that we hate the kids here, John,
Yeah.
because we don't want the. Oh, that makes sense.
Like, you have one and I have two and two grandkids. I still hate them. They're kids, right? They're kids. I hate them all. I even hate my own. I just hate them all. Just, gross. Yeah. If it comes to
No, that's really quick before I forget. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
This is unrelated. This is what we were talking about earlier. But one of my favorite things from when Donald Trump came out and talked about how much influence China has over our country or our government, people kept posting pictures of Miriam Adelson, and they were like, "This is the Chinese influencer who's taking over our country." And they were like, "This is the flag of the country, or province of China that's taking over America," and it was just the Israeli flag.
Dude, people are all over that. It's not going away for them anytime soon. And the open arms that the likes of Miriam Adelson that's gone on, these welcoming with open arms because of all the money she brings with her. It's like, at some point, it's going to backfire. Like, you can't go on social media anymore and see someone trying to post something, how much they are in favor of us being Israel's best friend and they're our greatest ally and blah, 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 on and on and on. And the ratioing that goes on, like that's going to have repercussions in an election. I mean, you had a thing with Thomas Massey, and I don't remember what the guy's name. His last name's Bell, and Corey Bush is running against him because this Bell character out of St. Louis has taken AIPAC money apparently, and so Corey Bush is like, "Look, this dude's taking money from Israel. He's a Democrat, but now she's using that as a way to try to get a to defeat him in the primary in August."
That's well, she ran on that last time. So she was the one who held the seat, and then Wesley Bell unseated
Wesley
her.
Bell, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. He unseated her. And despite the fact that he was already taking Israeli money. So this was in 2024, late 2024. Is the name like Israel had already been tainted. They'd been doing the genocide in Gaza for a year. Like Democrats were calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe. And Wesley Bell was like openly taking all this AIPAC money, but Corey Bush was also like had her own corruption scandals going on. That's why it's amazing that she's like his number one competitor again, because that's going to be the only Democrat district in Missouri if the lawsuits don't hold up or whatever. And if the districts stay the way they are right now with the new district lines that they just passed, then that's going to be the only Democrat seat they have. And they're running back. Like that just shows you, like, as much as you hate Republicans, the Democrat Party is in just as rough a shape. Like they're running back their own corrupt monsters. Like Corey Bush was part of the squad. Like she was running around, like the way they made Thomas Massey look, she was actually running around with AOC and Ilhan Omar and proudly one of the squad members or whatever. And that's who they're trotting back out to run against the centrist AIPAC funded candidate, is like the left-wing socialist crazy part of the party. I mean, it's an absolute train wreck over there on the left. It's not much better on the right, but it's pretty bad on both, man. They're competing for who's going to try to lose 2028 harder.
Yeah.
Because 2026 is, sorry if you're a Republican listening to this, but your party is going to get walloped in November. Walloped across the board. Speaking of which, I mean, however you feel about it, I mean, not talking about the issue aside, but I think that Republicans putting Amendment 3 on the ballot in November is going to drive out Democrat turnout.
It is. It will.
It always boosts in some form. I remember that the Democrats had a really good boost under Joe Biden in 2022. They thought there was going to be this big red wave. It ended up being like the red trickle because the Supreme Court had overturned Roe v. Wade. And so all of these states were passing their own abortion laws. So then it became the talking point of the 2022 election. And then the Republican turnout just was not what we thought it was going to be at all. And like I mentioned earlier on this show, Donald Trump won and Amendment 3 passed in Missouri in 2024. And so, like, there is some crossover between people who will historically vote Republican and people who vote for abortion, like codifying abortion in a way. And so I think this is just going to be it's another reason why I think Republicans are just going to get walloped.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me, I want to jump back to the flock camera for a second. Yeah, China's just another smokescreen for the real buttholes taking our freedoms away, says Jeff. Absolutely. So here's this was posted by Good Morning Liberty. It says, it's not enough to not like flock surveillance. We must actively anti-flock surveillance. So this is a very short letter to the editor, Best of North Atlanta. So this is by Jason Hunyar. Let me share my screen real quick. This is a very short article, or an editorial, I guess. On September 30th, 2025, a flock vice president logged into the Dunwoody PD's flock system and looked at a camera in the children's gymnastics room of a private business here in Dunwoody. He did not look at any other cameras in the entire 400 camera network that day. The business shared their cameras directly to the PD under the pretense that access was solely for real-time critical incident response. Flock and Dunwoody elected officials both say this was for a sales demo. They claim this was part of authorized activity approved under the city's demo partner agreement. The problem with that is the city cannot provide any information that demo partner agreement exists. What kind of sales demo would require looking at one camera in a children's gymnastics room? Can anyone rationally explain why a police agency that is interested in Flock would like to see one third party camera integration that is in a children's gymnastics room? Freaking gross, man. Folks, just again, we have to get past this mindset that all these things, that there's no way that, it's just everything's positive. There's no negativity, or well, there might be a little abuse. Dude, you know how many cops have been caught so far tracking family members with using the Flock system to find out where their family members at? It's happening all the time. They are ripe for abuse. Quit screaming for safety so bad from your local arm of government that you just set yourselves up for this type of abuse. I mean, it's not like we don't have stories where you have vindictive people in law enforcement. I'm not saying all law enforcement is vindictive, but there are some vindictive people in law enforcement. That could be cops, could be prosecutors, could be judges. Do you want those people having access to these things? Because even without that, so I just don't have enough trust in my government that I would be like, yeah, cool. I know. I mean, there's going to be some abuses, but it won't happen to me because I'm not doing anything wrong. And then we get in that mindset, just like the Patriot Act. Well, why should I care? I'm not doing anything wrong. Okay, fast forward to today and see how that's working out for all of us. Okay.
Well, yeah, but then also, like, anytime you're thinking about a blanketed security state, you always have to remember that for a while it was a crime to go in public. It was a crime to gather with more than 4 people at a time. So if that's really what you want all these cameras around, just remember that it was a crime to gather into more than groups of 4. It was against the law to go to your grandma's house for Thanksgiving with all of your cousins. Just so if you're wondering, like, oh, what could possibly happen if we have a blanket security state, they could make it illegal to gather, which they did. So don't ever forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't think that they will ever not use that again or learn their lessons from the response to COVID? You don't think they'll ever use that, the lessons they learned from that, how easily they got people to turn their neighbors in from just walking outside and just hanging out outside with a couple of friends, and then their Karen neighbor decides to turn them in? That will just be perpetuated. That is if we can't get more people to distrust their government, it's going to keep happening. It's just the fact that now you won't even have to depend on the Karens of the world because there'll be so many cameras up. You won't be able to escape it. I did see a cool post the other day. Some guy made a mask, and it's clear plastic, but it has textures in it, right? Across the front of his face. You can clearly make out the person's face. It doesn't distort their face. But apparently, if they walk past these cameras, it screws the cameras up. They can't make out your face. I'm like, can we get enough of these made for everyone that wants them? Like, if we're going to have a government handout, can we get those handed out? That's money well spent.
we're getting pretty close to a Mad Max, Purge, the Purge 2, where everyone's like running around in masks and hiding from cameras and in armored SUVs. They're forcing us that way, John.
They really are. And again, the enemy are made to be Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. They don't have a bunch of people over here dictating how to run, for how we should run our lives. Those are Americans, elected Americans, and house and chambers across the country who are dictating to us how we should live our lives. And I don't know. It shouldn't be that way. Um, it shouldn't. Again, too many elected officials throw around the word democracy. Too many people throw around the word safety and all these other words, and it's like, it's just like that famous meme. I do not think you know what that actually means, because people are like, we should do this so we can have free healthcare, and the guy's like, I do not know. I don't think you know what the word free means. And so I just don't think people know what the word freedom means anymore. Now, are we still much more free than a lot of other countries? Absolutely. But that's degrading at a consistently faster rate than it did many years ago. And it's not getting much better. And so that's extra frightening to me. Brandon, we got about 4.5 minutes. Any parting words from you for tonight's show?
Well, we lost, I believe, three, or it was either 3 or 4 brave soldiers over the weekend in this unnecessary war of aggression against Iran. We
Yes.
have not executed regime change. We haven't weakened their military capabilities. We haven't put ourselves in a better position to negotiate away their nuclear capabilities. We haven't been able to effectively stop them from attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So, first of all, I want you to just take a look at the pictures of the people who lost their lives. And I want you to ask yourself, was this worth it? Do we need to be here? Are these people who had families, who had siblings and mothers and fathers and wives, people who, and our husbands, they've had people who missed them. What is this worth it? And the answer should unequivocally, unhesitantly be absolutely not. We need to get out of not only this conflict, but we need to just get out of the Middle East. We need to pull out. And it's not worth losing even one life over this, let alone 17 or possibly one more in the future. So, and then also to anybody who thinks we're ready for a war with China, just look at how Iran has been able to take on our air power. I mean, we're dumping thousands and thousands of bombs, unprecedented number of bomb droppings, and Iran has taken it right on the chin, essentially. So, what do you think a power like China is going to do? One that has a much better and more advanced military all the way around, and a country with 10 times more people as Iran. So I want you to think about how that's going to go. And then also, really quick, I was invited and accepted an invitation to the No on 5 bipartisan rally on July 30th at 6:45. It's at The Point at Baldwin Commons, at 1 Baldwin Commons Circle in Baldwin, Missouri. And so I will be one of the guest speakers speaking about No on 5.
Awesome sauce. Happy to hear it, dude. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Again, we just want you all to think real hard. There is so much bad information out there about Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, especially. Don't believe us. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything I say. That's fine. Go do the research. But don't let your fear of dark money or out of state interest drive you to make a decision when we've shown you on this show. And you can go to the MEC, it's mec.mo.gov, and you can look this up and you can see how many out of state lobbyists are putting money into PACs that fund Republican candidates. Just be very, very aware of that. Don't let your fear of some loony left-wing liberals who are going to overtake your Constitution, when our Republican majority can't even pass barely 10% constitutional laws in this state. So just keep that in mind before you make up your mind when you go to cast your votes in the August primary. And we'll keep hitting on this until primary day. And then I don't know, August 9th should be, wait a minute. Is it August 4th is the primary? That's a Tuesday night. So that night, even though that's the first Tuesday night and that Tom March is going to be on with us, we will be in the background. I will be scrolling through local news sites to keep an eye on voting totals as we progress through the evening. All right. That being said, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report.